So shout out to Destiny. I'm actually a huge fan of her videos. I'll link to it in this video. But she did a tier list for the first free 5-star characters for you in Zenless Zone Zero. Here we go.
To start, let's go over Lycaon. Lycaon will be an ice stun character who has normal basic attacks and skills, as well as a charged version of his basic attack and skill. Lycaon focuses in punching and kicking his enemies, as well as quickly building the daze meter of whatever he is fighting. For reference, the daze meter is very crucial, as this will allow you to stun enemies and also issue chain attacks with your characters. When you use a heavy attack, this is where you're going to be able to deal a good amount of damage, as well as be able to have another damage dealer quickly enter the field and potentially take advantage of the buffs from other characters on the team as well.
Yeah, that freeze skill looks really useful. If it's anything like Honkai Star Rail, where you can freeze characters, they'll come a lot in handy.
Enemies are stunned, the damage they will receive will be amplified, and they are also immobilized, which creates a perfect opportunity to just deal a bunch of damage onto an enemy or even multiple enemies depending on what you are fighting. Lycaon will be able to have increased daze with his charged basic attack, so taking advantage of charging them up will be very beneficial in order to build up the daze meter pretty fast on what you are fighting.
Plus it hits robots with a tail and damage. Imagine an animal that uses a tail to damage a robot or a furry. Imagine a furry using their tail.
When it comes to his ease
Actually,
of use,
I can
he should
imagine
be,
that.
especially when it comes to building the daze meter on an enemy. You can use Lycaon on an Ellen team, as he'll be able to stun the enemy and trigger a chain attack, which will allow Ellen to come in quickly and deal massive amounts of damage.
For anyone who doesn't know who Ellen is the gacha character in this game. The first 5-star gacha character you can get. She's got a tail and she's dressed as a maid.
Have a supportive character on the team, you likely would go Lycaon stuns enemy, then the support comes in, get the buffs up, and then from there the chain attack would then go into Ellen, so that Ellen's able to take advantage of the buffs from the support on the team, as well as to take advantage of the enemy being stunned to deal massive amounts of damage. The ice team that you can create with Lycaon and Ellen will be really powerful as a team overall, and if you don't pull Ellen, you can still use Lycaon on other teams for how good he is at stunning enemies, and his damage output isn't too shabby. Being able to...
He's sounding quite promising so far. Great ice character, super fast movements, works well with a gacha character.
Take advantage of stunning enemies very quickly will definitely result in you having an easier time dealing with enemies, since they'll barely be able to actually touch you, especially if they're stunned. And being able to take advantage of all the extra damage you can deal when an enemy is stunned is just super nice overall. When it comes to Lycaon's additional abilities, if you do have another character in the team that shares the same attribute or faction as Lycaon, then when he hits a stunned enemy, the target's stun damage multiplier will increase. This is just really good.
What's the deal with the gimp face on Lycaon's face? Like the gimp? He's like a furry gimp. I think the stun ability is pretty useful in such a fast-paced game like this. If you freeze the enemies, get a bit of breathing space, you know?
Output, and the way to get the similar attribute would be either Ellen and Sokaku, or if you're looking at the faction, then you would be taking a look at Rina, Ellen, or Korin. So that's just something else to keep in mind that is an additional benefit. So I would have to say Lycaon is a really nice starter character. He is easy to use. And if you're interested in the Lycaon and Ellen Ice team I mentioned, then Lycaon will provide very good value for that particular synergy. Next up though, we will...
Hopefully I'll pull Ellen tonight. I really want Ellen now. And I think Destiny sold me on Lycaon. Lycaon sounds awesome.
Rina.
And from what you're all
Rina
saying
is
too
an
about
electric
Lycaon.
support character and is part of the Victoria House
Physics!
group, similarly to Lycaon. Rina specializes in ranged attacks with her puppets Drusilla and Anastella. They are able...
Actually, that sounds awesome. She looks sick. She reminds me of Praying Mantis from Metal Gear Solid. And since the characters I've played with all seem to be short range, having a long range character sounds interesting.
Deal physical damage as well as electric damage onto enemies. Rina is a great character at being able to maintain distance between you and an enemy, and she can also assist with building the attribute anomaly meter with her attack, which can result in an enemy becoming shocked from the electric attribute anomaly. Some of Rina's major perks though is that when she's paired with a character of the electric element or the same faction, when enemies are stunned, she'll provide an electric damage increase to the entire team. As for Rina's universal perk, which I absolutely love this perk, she will provide pen ratio to allies when she orders Drusilla or Anastella to attack enemies, and the effect will end once her puppets return to her. Essentially what would happen is that you will attack with Rina, have an opportunity to switch, which can be for example an assist swap. You would go into another character and they will be able to receive the pen ratio bonus. The reason why pen ratio is important is that it will allow you to ignore a percentage of target's defense when you are attacking them based on how much pen ratio your character has. Rina being able to provide this to allies is essentially providing defense ignore for your team members to take advantage of, and this will improve damage output. In the case of putting Rina alongside a character that has another attribute, you can take advantage of the attribute anomalies, especially disorder. For reference, attribute anomaly are essentially debuffs onto enemies and a way to deal a bunch of damage. You can trigger attribute anomaly by dealing elemental damage to an enemy, and once you have accumulated enough, you will trigger the attribute anomaly of that element. Disorder.
Alright, what does everyone think of Rina so far? Besides the physics, she looks cool, like levitating chick, and she sounds like a debuffer. She doesn't seem that fast, but she sounds like an important character to just debuffing the enemy. So she enables your team to break defense.
Is when you trigger two different attribute anomalies, and this can result in massive damage being dealt to an enemy. Anomaly type characters will be able to build up attribute anomaly very quickly, but the other character fighting styles can still assist with building this up. Rina will be great at being able to provide valuable buffs, have distance between an enemy and herself, and can be used on numerous—
Yuck, what the hell is she offering you, man? What is that? Fish head soup? Actually starting to look yummy.
Comms because of the benefits that she does provide. Next up, we have Grace, who is an electric anomaly
Physics.
character and is part of the Belobog Heavy Industries faction. At triggering the electric attribute anomaly with how fast she can attack and build her zap stacks. Grace can have up to 8 zap stacks, and when her stacks are maxed out and she uses her skill, she will have increased electric anomaly buildup. One way that Grace will be able to get zap stacks is just by simply using her basic attacks, which, since Grace is able to attack quick, you should be able to get these zap stacks pretty fast, and because of this, Grace will be able to trigger shock often onto enemies, and if you do have another elemental character in the team, then you can also trigger disorder, which I did just speak about a little bit ago. Grace's grenades will be able to hit multiple enemies, especially if they're near each other, so you can have build up on numerous enemies to take advantage of the attribute anomaly that she is able to trigger very often with her skill kit. You can use Grace alongside other electric characters or even use her on non-electric teams to take advantage of triggering disorder with that team comp. When another character in the team is the same element or faction as Grace, when she attacks an enemy with an EX special attack, which is essentially her enhanced skill, the shock effect inflicted onto that enemy increases shock damage dealt. Overall, Grace is a very nice option when it comes to having a character that is very mobile and is able to quickly build up attribute anomaly, as well as—
So when I played as Grace, she was actually really easy to control and very smooth and free-flowing. To me, from the way Destiny's describing it, Grace seems like a good all-rounder. And she'd pair pretty well with Rina, who's more of a long-distance attacker, where Grace seems to be able to get in nice and close. But she also has that grenade skill.
nice electric damage to enemies. Now we have Koleda, who is a Fire Sun character and is also part of Belobog Heavy Industries, similar to Grace.
Whoa, look at that bear!
She has a special synergy with Ben, who is also a fire character and is part of Belobog Heavy.
Ben is the bear, right? Is that the name of the bear in Tekken? No, that's Kuma. Kuma is the bear in Tekken.
As well. Ben and Koleda have special combos and animations together that will allow her to deal more damage onto enemies. Koleda can be used as a main damage dealer on your team, or if you want to have her as a secondary DPS on a team, she will work nicely there too, since she's able to quickly stun enemies. When Koleda uses her EX special attack or consumes Furnace Fire to use an enhanced basic attack, the days she deals increases, and to get Furnace Fire, you would have to use her EX special attack. Furnace Fire allows Koleda to launch enhanced basic attacks and deal a bunch of damage. In closed beta 2, I used Koleda as my main damage dealer because of her damage output and stun capabilities, and had Ben on the team to take advantage of their synergy in order to deal more damage onto enemies. As well as how defensive Ben is, his skill kit was pretty useful, especially later on. Overall, Koleda is good at damage output as well as being able to very quickly stun enemies, and you can use her without Ben. I personally would recommend using them together though, just because of the additional damage you'll be able to do, but she can provide nice value with her kit as a baseline for sure.
All that technical stuff aside, I think I would just get them just because they look like an awesome duo. They just look funny together. They're instantly just likable to me. Just them two together. It would just be so fun to watch and to look at. This crazy fire chick and this huge bear. And when we played the bear as a demo, his defense ability was pretty useful. Plus he looked sick.
Quickly stun enemies, and as I mentioned with Lycaon, stunning is such a great mechanic to be able to take advantage of, just to make your enemies immobilized and of course deal more damage to them. So this is very valuable. Next up though, we have Nekomata. Nekomata is a physical attack character who's part of the Cunning Hares. Nekomata is able to attack very quickly and has a lot of mobility. She'll be able to deal more damage when her dodge counter or quick assist hits an enemy, so you'll want to be able to take advantage of her dodges and assists as often as possible to upkeep the damage increase. Whenever another character in the team shares the same attribute or faction as Nekomata, after any character inflicts assault, which is physical attribute anomaly.
What is that? The girl on the bottom right. What's with that pose?
It'll increase the damage of Nekomata's next EX special, and this can stack up to 2 times. One character that was recently revealed was Piper. She is a physical attribute anomaly character, which because she is a physical attribute anomaly character, this will help you build up assault very quickly. So Piper
that looked nuts! Let's watch that again, look at that!
Because she is a physical attribute anomaly character, this will help you build up
that's gotta be giving you brain damage, man!
Assault very quickly. So Piper can be a potential synergy for sure. Nekomata will be able to deal physical damage in a large area with her ultimate.
Whoa, what the heck? These animators know what they're doing. Look at Nekomata's move.
Sure. Nekomata will be able to deal physical damage in a
look at that.
Large area with her ultimate,
booty shaking,
and with dealing with multiple enemies on the field. Overall, when it comes to Nekomata, she's a great physical damage dealer, and she will be able to, of course, unleash very quick attacks and just deal a bunch of damage. For our final character of today's video, we have Soldier 11.
Here you go, Quango's
She's a
favorite
fire attack character, and she is part of the OBOLS squad faction, and the only character part of this faction on release. Soldier 11 deals physical damage with her basic attack, but if you time it properly, you'll be able to unleash fire slashes instead. You'll also be able to unleash fire slashes when fire suppression is active on Soldier 11. Soldier 11 has quite a few ways to get fire suppression to have consistent.
You know what? From watching this, I'm pretty sold on a fire team. So Bear, forgot the names already. What is it? What's the name? Koleda, Ben, and Soldier 11. Just because, technical stuff aside, just because they look cool. And I always like fire characters. They always seem on edge and dangerous.
Output. You can use her EX special attack, trigger a chain attack and go into Soldier 11, or use her ultimate. Fire suppression will also increase the damage on her basic and dash attacks, so having a nice uptime on this will be very beneficial. As another thing to keep in mind, Soldier 11 will also deal additional fire damage and even more damage to stunned enemies if you have another ally on the team of the same element or faction. Since she is the only character of her faction so far though, you will need a fire ally to trigger this, which can be Lucy, who is a fire support, Ben, who is a fire defensive
Lucy looks funny also,
or Koleda, who is a fire stun character. Overall though, Soldier 11 is a nice fire option for a general damage dealer. Honestly, all of the standard S ranks are pretty valuable in some way. Lycaon and Koleda will be incredible at stunning enemies, which, as I mentioned, very valuable mechanic to take advantage of in the game. Grace will be incredible at building up electric attribute anomaly to shock enemies. Rina provides very valuable buffs, especially that
but Rina is actually quite
cool
as well.
For allies. Nekomata will be a very powerful physical damage dealer, and lastly,
hold up.
A nice fire damage dealer.
She has 2 tails
for your account. It ultimately comes down to what playstyle you enjoy the most and what characters you want to invest into for what character will be the best choice for you. If you're really into Ellen, Lycaon will be an awesome option for you, and honestly in endgame, Lycaon should be pretty good, as I said. So you want to take advantage of that for sure. And that ice team is just a very powerful team to have, especially if you're able to get it very early on. You should be able to power through, which is how powerful that team is. And then for Grace, of course, being able to trigger shock very often would be very useful. I can also see that in the future being even more valuable depending on what characters they release in synergies, potentially. But if I were to tell you guys what character I am personally the most interested in, it would be Rina. Defense Ignore, just in general, is a very powerful stat to be able to take advantage of for more damage output with any of your damage dealers. In a sense, it does provide the value of a more universal buff, as a bunch of damage dealers can appreciate having more pen ratio and ignoring the defense of whatever they are fighting. Also, design wise, she's definitely my favorite when it comes to these standard S
All right,
ranks.
cool, excellent. Shout out to Destiny for that. That was a good video. Let's take my PNG Tuber video off. What does everyone think? Who would you pick after watching that video? Lycaon having an ice team, he'd be good paired with the current gacha character, though she's the very first gacha character. If ice is the first gacha character, the next one isn't going to be an ice. Upcoming is, what's her name? Ju Yuan. She's an ether character. The next one after that is Hoshimi.